crimes in such a way that leaves them free to commit new, appalling crimes. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Tonia Antoniazzi.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and huge thanks to the Honourable Member for Rotherham on bringing this important subject before the Chamber today and for bringing it to national prominence. Her role in this has been extraordinary. I'd also like to put my thanks on record to women like Della who have waived their anonymity in order to expose the serious failures in the DBS system and to ensure that the law is changed to keep people safe. Now, as colleagues will no doubt have seen in their own constituencies, the reaction of most people on hearing about this loophole is one of just utter disbelief. Disbelief that calls for simple changes like the deed poll asking if the applicant has a criminal record haven't been made. Disbelief that a system so many of them have encountered anywhere from their children's school to local sports club features such a fundamental flaw. And disbelief that despite years and years of warning from campaigners that the name change loophole still exists, it's been treated as an administrative headache, not a serious risk. And now I want to take this opportunity to highlight an area of concern which the Honourable Member for Telford and the Honourable Member for Edinburgh South West have already raised, because where good intentions have not been balanced with, with the risk of leaving another avenue to be exploited, and it's so dangerous. Because a DBS grants enhanced privacy rights to individuals who change their gender when changing their identity. And these are exceptional rights, and they are only granted to individuals from this group. The result is the identity verification is compromised, meaning that there is no guarantee that the information returned during the check and displayed on the certificate will be accurate or even complete. These exceptional privacy rights also allow an applicant who has changed gender to request all their previous names are withheld from a DBS certificate that is issued. And this right to conceal previous identities isn't given to anybody else. Disclosing previous identities is a key component of safeguarding, and DBS certificates issued to all other individuals display all other names the applicant has used. Applicants who change their gender are also permitted to conceal their sex, and the DBS certificate issued will display their required gender instead. Mr Deputy Speaker, this right is not granted to any other individual. The importance of sex to safeguarding means that for all other applicants, their sex is always displayed. There cannot be any exceptions in safeguarding. For the system to work, it must apply the same standards to everyone. And sadly, it is simply naive to think that loopholes in this system will not be exploited. Now, as colleagues have outlined, the system as is relies on the honesty of sex offenders to ensure it functions as it should. And the Honourable Member for Mole Valley highlighted this in his speech, that they're not to be trusted and not honest. Data obtained by the BBC from police forces highlights just how flawed this approach is. Between 2019 and 2021, there have been more than 5,500 offences committed by sex offenders or failing to comply with notification requirements, such as not telling the police they were living in a household with a child. The Disclosing and Barring Service found 2,190 applicants for checks had criminal records, and they had supplied incorrect or missed out personal details such as past names or aliases. A total of 6,740 prosecutions began over the past 3 financial years for offences by sex offenders of breaches of a sexual harm prevention order or an interim order. Look, the system is broken and we must fix it. And we have plenty of damning evidence as to why we should. After being released from prison only 3 years into his 6-year sentence for indecent assault following a string of sexual assault convictions against children, Timothy Cuff changed his name to Timothy Barnett. His new name change allowed him to hide his criminal past, including from his new partner and 3 children. And as Timothy Barnett, he answered the door to 13-year-old Sandy Hadfield, who knocked looking for her friend. After giving her vodka, he lured her into a quiet area of the woods where he attempted to have sex with her before slitting her throat. Owing to his name change, his background went undetected even after 2 encounters with Lincolnshire Police and 1 encounter with social services. A system that means a convicted child sex offender is not identified despite encounters with the police and social services is one that is fundamentally broken, and one that in this case led to the most tragic of outcomes. But sex offenders are not just changing their name post-trial to hide their convictions, they are also changing their name at trial or just before to protect their name on their birth certificate. This has been highlighted in the high-profile case of Department for International Development worker Peter Davis, who became James Robert Harris before trial, allowing him to keep all records of his birth name clean should he decide to use it again. This loophole gives sex offenders and abusers, many of whom rely on their ability to manipulate in order to carry out their crimes, an opportunity to hide their criminal history and pass the very checks that are meant to keep the most vulnerable safe. And this loophole renders not only the DBS redundant, but also to the Domestic Violence Disclosure Scheme, to the Sex Offenders Register, to the Child Sex Offender Disclosure Scheme. It almost seems absurd that we are even discussing this 20 years on from the Bichard inquiry, which identified the ability, as has been spoken of today, the ability of the serial predator Ian Huntley to change his name by deed poll to Ian Nixon, successfully severing the link with his existing police records, meant no alarms were raised and he was employed as a school caretaker. That this loophole still exists, allowing, indeed enabling, serial predators to create new identities is a scandal. Mr Deputy Speaker, we are in this place to be legislators. We are in this place to make those decisions and to ask those questions, what if and how. And we have to safeguard the most vulnerable people in society from these bad actors in all legislation. But I would like to pay tribute to everybody in the gallery today and to the Honourable Member for Rotherham,